some 13,500 years before the Common Era, on the coast of what's known today as the Gulf of Mexico, the Mexican states of Veracruz and Tabasco, there arrived a group of people who later would be commonly known as the Olmeka. The Olmeka is a Mexicatl word which means the rubber people. It speaks of their knowledge of making rubber from the rubber tree, which they used to make the ball. It was used in the sacred ball game, the ancient substitute for wars. The Olmeka are the grandfathers, the grandmothers of the cultures in the Americas. They brought writing, they brought math, they brought medicinal knowledge, they brought philosophies, awareness, transformations of consciousness. We see from the different art left to us by the Olmeka that they were apparently three different cultures mixed together into one. We see very strong African features, very strong Asiatic features, and very strong Middle Eastern features. Yet, when they would travel throughout Mexico to share their wisdom, when they would reach the Zapotec, the Mixtec people of Oaxaca, or the Totonac people of El Tajín in Veracruz, or the Teotihuanacos in the Valley of Mexico, or as far south as Guatemala to the Mayans. They weren't never spoken of as being these three different groups, always just spoken of as the Olmeka. We know they were superior in knowledge, yet they didn't come to conquer, they came to share their knowledge. And they had a very strong intent about them. A lot of the statues they made, the colossal heads they made, that are very commonly attributed to the Olmec culture, were made from basalt stone, which is a very hard stone. So they were showing us they knew how to manipulate this stone. Yet none of their temples were made of stone; they were all made of clay and mud and so forth, showing us that they were an impermanent nature. They weren't meant to stay and be around for a long time. For example, like the Mayan temples that came later. When I began my work as messenger some 20 years ago for a gentleman from the Hopi Sun clan, I was privy to spend time with grandfathers and grandmothers from the Mapuche culture in Chile, from those from Tibet, from those from India, from those from the Toltec cultures, from the Mayan cultures, Zapotec cultures, Naka cultures, on and on. I've been very fortunate in this way, and I'm very curious. I always have been as a child, so I've always taken these opportunities to ask these elders, and I didn't want to corrupt their histories by sharing what I had learned with others, so I first would listen, take it all in, and then later I would have some points of comparison maybe to share. What I've seen over and over is this belief that there was a 10-island nation that lie between the Americas and Europe and Africa. This disappeared in 3 different episodes throughout time. Some people speak of the first time as being about 150,000 years before the Common Era, the second time being about 50,000 years before the Common Era, and the last destruction of the last islands being about 13,500 before Common Era. This would be when the Olmec arrived. Who were they really? We can't really say. What was their language? We can arguably state that the Mayan language may have come from the Olmec, or parts of it may have. We don't know. The Mayan languages are very deep languages, very distinct languages. Quiche Maya, Guatemala speak a very different tongue than do the Chol Maya of Chiapas. And Campeche, or the Yucatec Maya of Chichen Itza and Uxmal, they can't even understand each other anymore. The languages are so different. So the Mayan tongue has taken a lot of expansion. It's had a lot of growth over the last couple thousands of years. Many people at first will have a problem with the year 13,500 before Common Era, as in the world of archaeology, the Olmec are believed to be, their arrival about 3,000 before Common Era, or 4,000 before Common Era. However, new evidence will continue to show that they arrived much before that. The indigenous people have never lost grip of their true history. This has always been kept in an oral form, because anything that's written can be stolen and manipulated. So again, many people in the Western world will say, well, you can't trust the oral form. I beg to differ. A great example is Homer, who would recite things like the Iliad and the Odyssey from memory. Take him days to do this. And Homer is said to have used this type of device where in his mind he projected this image of this type of stage, and on the stage were all different objects. And each object for him was a trigger for one part of the story. So he could visually project himself onto this stage and then see the different objects and tell the story. Homer himself having actual no physical sight. So in the old days, pre-television and all this type of stuff, our minds were used a lot more, and our memory was greater. Another great example is in the Buddhist traditions. If you take an initiation, or if you learn from an ordained monk in the Buddhist tradition, he has memorized the teachings of Lord Buddha and the sutras, which are comments on these teachings, word for word, be it in Pali, be it in Hindi, be it in Tibetan, be it in Thai, be it in Japanese or Chinese or English. But it's a rigorous system that goes from teacher to monk, and monk to monk, and monk to teacher. And so we know that when we sit down with an ordained Buddhist monk or nun, that we are hearing direct words from Buddha from 500 years before even the time of Yeshua ben Yosef, the Nunyan. So the oral tradition in the indigenous cultures is something that's very strong and very sacred. And again, we indigenous people, we know our history. We have used mythology to create a rich dictionary, if you will, of symbolism. Of iconography, which we have embedded in the mind of our youth, in the mind of our initiates.